Making a deposit. In this video, I'm going to go over the steps to correctly fill out a deposit slip. We have 9 spaces up here at the top, or 9 numbers, and then over here down at the bottom, we're going to have our 9 things that are represented on our deposit ticket. The first thing today we're going to do is to write the date. The date can be written in many ways. You can either write it out as the month, the day, and the year, or you could write the date as 10/15/18, or we could even write it as October 15, 2018, or you could even spell it out, such as October 15, 2018. So there's many things that we can do when writing the date. You can, whatever you choose, you're just going to go up to the date area, and I'm going to just use numbers to express my date. The next section is going to be about bills and coins. So I'm going to lump these two together because this is our cash. And we will record our cash up here at the top. Currency is another word for paper bills or paper money. So bills is when we're depositing the paper money. And coin is if we're depositing like pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and so forth. So we have dimes, quarters, pennies, etc. And this will be our $1 bills, $5 bills, 10, 20, etc. So more and more of the paper bills. And again, this is coins. And then currency is another word for paper bills, which is represented up here. Okay, this line right here, this will split up our dollars and cents as we write it in. So if we had, if we take in a $20 bill, we would write 20 and then 00. That's just an example. Or let's say we brought in a jar full of coins and we had $59.38. It would be recorded as 59.38. And that is how we do our cash, bills, and coins. Number 4 is about checks. And that's up here where we're going to list our checks individually or singly. However, this is an older thing. It says if you're depositing a check, write the bank transit number. And the bank transit number is found on checks that you receive as a fraction. And so here's an example of a transit number. And typically you would write the first, the top of that account. But instead of using the ABA number or the bank transit number, we will just either use the last name of the name on the check. So we will say use last name, or the check number that you're depositing. That's the best thing to do because the ABA number, that's bank transit number, it just typically isn't used anymore. Okay, and so that's number 4, and to go along with that is actual number 5, which is the amount of the check. So for example, let's say we received a check from Joe Smith. So I would write who the check was from in the 4 area, or the number 4 area, and then he wrote us a check for $75. And so I would write that over here in the check amount line, which is number 5. All right, so number 6 is other checks. List the total amount of the checks listed on the reverse side of the deposit slip. Sometimes we have more checks than just one, or in this case, the deposit slip could hold 3. We could write one here, this would be number 2, and right below it would be number 3. Well, sometimes you might deposit 4, 5, 10, 20, whatever amount of checks, and we'd actually record those on the back side of the deposit slip and then bring the total here. In this scenario, we're not. We're just going to leave it that we're only depositing the 1 check. So just to clarify for other checks, this is if you have more checks than what the front of the deposit slip has room for. And again, we would write those on the back and then write the total on the number 6 line. Number 7 is the total line, or some deposit tickets will actually say subtotal. So either total or subtotal. And what this means, this is the amount of money that we brought to the bank. So the amount of money brought to the bank. All right, so again, amount of money that we brought to the bank is our subtotal, and to calculate the subtotal, we're going to add lines, numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so let's look at that. Actually, not 4, because that's the check name. Sorry about that. So let's look at the top. We're going to add anything that's in 2, 3, 5, and 6. Add all of this up. And that will equal our subtotal. Number 7, our subtotal. So in this scenario, I would start off with my currency of $20. And I would add that to $59.38, and then my check, of $75 to get my subtotal. And so in this case, just made up these numbers, I'm going to be depositing $154.38. Number 8 is cash. Sometimes we take our stuff to the bank and we want to be able to bring home some cash. So if you want the bank teller to give you money back from the deposit, you're going to want to write the amount of the cash you want here, which goes up here on number 8, and it's called less cash received. So this is going to subtract from the money that we brought in. And so let's say we want to take home $50 because we want $50 to spend. Okay, so we would write that amount here. And what this will happen is that the cash will be subtracted from the subtotal. And if you get cash back, you have to sign the deposit slip. So only sign the deposit slip if receiving cash back. And you're going to sign the deposit slip right here, up here. And typically there will be a line for you to sign on. Okay, so you would just sign your name on that line. So we recorded how much cash we want, and we signed our deposit slip saying that we wanted cash back. Okay, that finally brings us to number 9, which is the net deposit. And the net deposit, we would subtract the amount of cash that we want back and then write the final net amount in your deposit. So if I had $154.38 and I subtract off my $50, I'm going to deposit $104.38, and my net deposit is the amount that is actually going to go into my bank, that's going to stay in my bank account, and that is the amount I have to record in my check register. Okay, so let's make sure we get all of that information down in our notes. All right, so the net deposit is the amount going into the bank account this is the amount recorded in the check register or the register. I can't write today. Okay, so the net deposit, this 104.38, this is my final number that I will record in my register, because that is the bank or the money I can spend. All right, so that is it. Oh, one more thing, that when we fill out a deposit slip, we want to fill this out in ink. That way nobody can erase the information that we have recorded on our deposit slip. So we want to record it and fill it out in ink. And that is it for making a deposit.